So it's been a while since I was last here. Now that I'm back, let's proceed with the next bit on our agenda, creating a main menu screen for our mobile game. So in this video, I'm going to show you a solid setup for a menu screen with submenus that you can navigate through. I have this implementation here, and you can seamlessly go from one submenu to another, interacting with whatever the menu displays. You can implement this using a widget switcher. Each submenu is a different widget blueprint, and you are basically switching from one widget to another. There are basically two parts to this implementation. The first part is implementing a widget switcher. The second part is to implement which widget is active. We are not designing the menus in this video, so we will create basic widgets with a text box in the center to signal us that the menu has indeed been switched. Let's get started. We are going to use the same project from the gradients video. So if you haven't already, make sure to check that out first. Start by opening the content drawer and create a new widget blueprint for our submenu. Rename this widget to something like WB_home. Before duplicating this widget, let's set up the basic layout. Add a canvas panel, and inside that, add a text box. You can change the screen size preview to whichever font you want from the toolbar above. Select the text box and change the anchor points to the center. After that, reset the offset values so that left, right, top, and bottom are all set to 0. Now change the text value to home. You might as well recenter it. Compile and save the widget. Now we can duplicate this widget 3 times and rename them to whatever submenu names you want. For this tutorial, I will keep it simple and go with account, stats, and settings. You can also open each widget and change the text inside so it reflects the correct submenu name. Now we need the main menu blueprint, which will also be a user widget. Create a new widget blueprint and call it WB_main. Inside this widget, add a canvas panel and then search for Widget Switcher. Rename the Widget Switcher to WS_main menu and make sure it is marked as a variable. You can wrap this Widget Switcher with a size box and set its anchors so it stretches across the full screen. We will add an offset of 100 at the top and 250 at the bottom, which will leave space for the buttons that we are going to add later. Now search for the user widgets we created earlier and add them as children of the widget switcher. If you highlight the widget switcher, you will see a property called active widget index on the right side. By default, it is set to 0. The numbering starts at 0 and it goes 0, 1, 2, 3 for our 4 submenus. If you change this value, you will notice the text on the screen changes depending on which submenu is active. For now, we'll just leave it set to 0. Next, we will add the navigation buttons. Add another size box to the canvas panel and inside it, add a horizontal box. Inside the horizontal box, we will add 4 buttons, one for each submenu. You can duplicate this button by pressing Ctrl D. Rename the buttons so they clearly reflect what they represent. Set the anchor points of the size box so it sits at the bottom of the screen, and then adjust the position slightly by giving it a bottom offset of 10. We want the buttons to be evenly spread out, so set each button's horizontal slot to fill and give them a padding of 2. Now search for a text box. We will add this inside the button to label them accordingly. Add a text box to each of the buttons. Quickly rename each one. Now let's implement the menu switching functionality. Select the first button and create a new on-clicked event. Remove any default events that we don't need right now. We will fetch a reference to our widget switcher and we will use the node setActiveWidgetIndex. Setting the value to 0, connect the pins. We will repeat this process for each button, only changing the ActiveWidgetIndex value depending on which submenu the button represents. Compile and save this file. Now we want to add this main menu to the screen. Open the level blueprint. I already have a widget set up over here, so I will just reuse the same key binding. Ideally, you would spawn this menu on event begin play. So when I press G, the menu appears. On releasing the G key, this would remove the menu. Okay, I can't test the functionality out if I remove this widget. So I will remove this functionality and now we will test it out. When you hit G, the menu appears and you can switch through each of the submenu. This completes the first part of the project. Now we want to visually show which menu is currently active. For this, we are going to create a new material. Inside the materials folder, create a new material and call it MUI button state. Open the material and change the material domain to user interface. Now we will add two colors. Hold V and left click to create a vector parameter. We will call this active color. Add another vector parameter and call it inactive color. For this example, I will just choose a lighter version of the active color. These colors will switch between each other using a lerp node. We will connect the pins to A and B. When the alpha value is 0.5, we get a blend between the two colors. But in our case, we want either 0 or 1. So we will add a scalar parameter called active. You can hold S and left click to add a scalar parameter. The default value will be set to 1, which means all buttons will start in the inactive state. Save and close the file. Next, we need to apply this material to our buttons. We could assign it directly, but that would make it difficult to create references for it later. Also remember that buttons only accept one child widget. So instead, wrap the text inside an overlay. The overlay becomes the new child of the button and overlays allow multiple children. Add an image to each of these overlays. The alignment of each overlay will be fill for horizontal and vertical. Remove any padding from our buttons. We can recenter our text so that it remains in the center. Remove the normal padding and pressed padding for each of our buttons. I will also change the text color slightly so it's sharper and easier to read. Repeat these steps for all the buttons. Finally, change the image material to the material we created earlier. Repeat this for all of our buttons. When the menu first launches, we want the first button to appear active. We will do this inside event construct. Add a sequence node because we'll be running several operations, and add two more pins so there are 4 operations in the sequence. First, fetch a reference to the image for the home button, then use the get dynamic material node. Promote the return value to variable and rename it to something like mid_home. Repeat the same process for all 4 buttons. For the first button only, use setScalar parameter value. The parameter name must match the one we created in the material, and this is case sensitive. Let's quickly go back to the material we created, and the scalar parameter is the one we added. So change the value to active and the value will remain 0. Compile and save. Now if we test it, you will see that the first submenu is highlighted, but the highlight doesn't change when we click other buttons. To fix that, go back to the onClicked events. For the clicked button, we will get its MID reference and set the scalar parameter value to 0. Then we will fetch the other MIDs and set their value to 1, which puts them back into inactive state. You can connect multiple MIDs to the same setScalarParameterValue node. Change the parameter name to active and value to 1. Copy and paste this logic for each button, just replacing the MID references with the corresponding active menu. Speedrun through this. Finally, just to demonstrate, I'm going to create a new sounds folder and import a random footstep sound I found in my files. Then we will assign this sound as the clicked sound for each button. And there we have it, a fully functional menu system that you can now build on top of. Wasn't that one of the easiest ways to implement a menu system? I will see you in the next one. Now go make something cool. Please like, share and subscribe.